Hello, welcome to Nerdium, the show that takes a look at the world around us and decided, man, being an adult sucks. So instead, let's focus on the things we really care about. Comics, TV, games, movies, and whatever else our geeky little hearts desire. I'm Cary, the big bald nerd, and with me is our fearless leader, the man who pulls all the strings, the Captain America to my Iron Man, Matt. And all is not well in the world of Nerdium today, kids. Matt and I need to settle the score. Have a debate that has plagued the likes of Plato, Confucius, and even Machiavelli. But before we get on board the mothership, I'll need to take some time to put away any sharp objects, heavy throwable items, and wrap our hands in soft, cushy pillows. Matt, whenever you're ready, beam us up.
This week in Nerd News, a lot is going on in the world of Nerd TV. Gotham had a big announcement. The Joker will be finally showing up, and it's not Jerome. This is a topic that Cary and I had discussed while recording this episode before the announcement, and Cary pretty much called it. The CW has decided that in order to prevent superhero fatigue, they'll only be showing 4 superhero shows at the same time. They currently have The Flash, Arrow, Legends, Supergirl, and just introduced Black Lightning. Supergirl will be going on hiatus for the time being. Cary and I had speculated that this might have something to do with the premiere of Krypton coming up, and they might be seeing how the ratings do with that Superman show. Marvel is releasing a 2-part comic called Infinity War Prelude, and that will help fill in the gaps between the end credits of Civil War and the first trailer of Infinity War. We'll learn what our heroes have been up to, and it will give us an idea of where the movie will be picking up. And in other nerd news, we're having our first big giveaway contest at Nerdium. The prize is an iTunes gift card worth $20 Canadian. And how do you win, you ask? Well, it's simple. Pop onto iTunes, give the show a quick rating and review, take a screenshot of the rating and review, and send us a DM or email of said screenshot. Loyal listeners that use the hashtag Joker will be given a second entry to the contest. The winner will be announced in episode 5 of the podcast and contacted for their mailing address. Unfortunately, contest is only open to those in North America. Good luck, nerds, and let the games begin. That's it for what's going on in the nerd world. Now let's get to the episode's discussion topic and see who gets crowned the Clown Prince of Crime.
Okay, so today we're going to have our first nerd fight, because I'm almost 100% convinced that you're wrong on this issue, only because I like to typically be right all the time, and I am right all the time. So today we're going to be fighting over who we believe is the quintessential and probably the best Joker. Just to make sure that we're not going too crazy, we're not going to count the animated guys.
Okay.
We're not going to get into video game voice acting. There's if you want to be honest, there's about 15 different people that have played the Joker.
Yeah.
And that's lovely. But I think we're just going to stick to the human actors that we've seen live action. So Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, and Jared Leto are pretty much your 4 choices.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure I stuck my stick in the ground pretty firmly on episode 1 or 2 or whatever this Genesis, and we're gonna go with I'm gonna go with Jack Nicholson.
Okay, you're leaving Cameron Monaghan off the table from Gotham.
But is he the Joker though?
Yeah, it hasn't. Yeah.
I mean, we've hinted that he's the Joker.
Yeah.
But he seemed to be more playing a character that was like the Joker.
That's true, and
because you'd have to retcon a whole lot. Like they've already retconned him into the Red Hood.
Yeah. But the whole timeline with Gotham is just off.
But isn't Gotham like a separate universe?
It is, I guess.
You know what I mean? So it's like if you watch Gotham, there's all sorts of signs of the Joker everywhere.
Yeah.
But you never actually see anybody that is the Joker except for Cameron Monaghan, and he plays a character that could be the Joker. Sure, why not? He plays a great Joker if you wanted to, but I don't think that they're taking that route with him.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so I guess we can get started with this. All the knives and weapons are away.
Yeah, I tucked it all away. There's no chance. And
okay.
I've made sure to tell all my friends that what I'm doing. So if anything happens to me, there's a group of people out there that'll know what I was doing and who I was doing it with.
All right. Okay. So Jack Nicholson, go.
Oh, I get to start.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. I'll table mine first, just so we have the level playing field here. My choice is Heath Ledger.
And that's the wrong answer, but continue.
Yeah. Well, originally I was like kind of going with an argument for Jared Leto, and I'll touch on that later.
Okay.
I'm not saying he's necessarily the best Joker, but I was going to defend him a little bit. But I'm going to go with Heath Ledger. And, yeah. But all right, let's hear your point on Jack Nicholson.
So when you think of the Joker, what are you thinking of?
Thinking of a psychotic Batman's arch nemesis.
Yeah, so somebody that's basically diametrically opposed to the Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So where Batman is creeping around in the dark shadows doing his Batman thing, you have a Joker that's out there. He's bright. He's colorful. He wants to be seen. He wants to be known. He wants to be heard. He wants you to know that it's him doing everything. And as much as I like Heath Ledger's portrayal, absolutely I do. I can't take anything away from the guy. For me, the best version of it comes from Jack Nicholson. He encompasses that color and lunacy that you would see played by someone like Cesar Romero, with that over-the-top laughter, that I'm in it for the gags sort of silliness, with the psychotic, I just want to watch the world burn sort of lunacy that you would expect from the Joker. It's in his style, it's in his mannerisms. Even the makeup is on point with the Joker. I've read all the issues of different comic books, and I've seen different portrayals of the Joker. I've even read, I can't remember who the artist was, but he did a series of comics based off of Heath Ledger's Joker, which just looked like a funny-looking homeless clown. and they're to his credit again, solid work, but not the Joker. The Joker's bright, the Joker's colorful, and the Joker is Batman's diametric opposite. He wants to be seen, he wants to be heard, and he wants everybody to know what he's up to.
Okay. You did a lot of homework there.
I did do a lot of homework. That's part of being me.
Okay. So I went with a different approach of, instead of being who's the best conceptual Joker, which you did a good point arguing Jack Nicholson, I went with who I felt portrayed the most interesting Joker character. Jack Nicholson was the Joker we grew up with, like from the Tim Burton movies, the one that we were originally seeing. I chose Heath Ledger because I actually enjoyed his kind of dark and gritty Joker that he played. I thought it fit really well into the more realistic world that Nolan was creating with the Batman or the Dark Knight. I liked how he was kind of more of an unhinged, kind of looked like a homeless clown himself. But the whole time you didn't really know much about him, and that's something that added to the character. You didn't know his backstory necessarily. It wasn't the traditional story of he's dropped into a vat.
At Ace Chemicals?
Yeah, Ace Chemicals there. And he wasn't dropped into a vat by Batman. Like, you don't know where he came from.
I can appreciate the where the hell did he come from aspect of that portrayal. Absolutely. And it does fit perfectly well.
Yeah.
I just, he seemed more like a crime boss. Granted, a chaotic sadist of a crime boss. But he didn't seem to be, he almost seemed to be too focused in his chaos.
Yeah, valid point there. But yeah, like the whole, you didn't know where he came from. You don't know really what he's necessarily angling at. Thought it was really good for the character. It added to the chaos that was the Joker. Also, what like they ended up developing was the whole Joker Batman dichotomy that's been in the comics for like a long time is that they need each other. Where you'd see Heath Ledger pushing the Dark Knight to continue getting better. He eventually wanted the Dark Knight to become a killer himself, but he's kind of pushing him along, developing the Dark Knight. And at the same time, Batman was kind of pushing him along too. So they're kind of rising to each other's levels. Where I thought that was different from Jack Nicholson, where Jack Nicholson just seemed like he was inconvenienced by the Batman. Every time Batman showed up, would interrupt his fun of painting on pictures in the art galleries and all that. So it actually seemed more of like a symbiotic relationship between Batman and Joker, which I kind of thought was really from the comics.
You do pick up on a whole lot of that, but the whole idea for me was as much as they do, and that's something that's kind of been nurtured over time. Is this we need each other to live? I mean, it's been brought up with the Dark Knight Returns, where the Joker suddenly comes out of a catatonic state because all of a sudden there's Batman news on the TV. He has a reason to live. It's his reason for being. But even with the Jack Nicholson, I believe like the Joker itself, even in the comic books, always seems to laugh and have fun with what he's doing. Whether he's blowing up an orphanage, whether he's just burning a pile full of money, whether he's making a pencil disappear into somebody's face. He has fun doing what he's doing. And for Heath Ledger, I don't think he was having as much fun as he could have been. He certainly cracked a few good jokes. I can't take it away from him. The don't hit any, don't start with the head. Your subject gets all fuzzy. The pencil disappearing. Great lines from the movie. Like, by all made me believe he was very much the Joker. The scars on his face, I'm not sure that I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It fit, like you said, with the narrative and the nitty gritty of it all. But again, it just put a smile on your face, not a horrendous scar that goes from ear to ear.
Yeah. Did you know the scene where he's in the interrogation room, that was all real?
Yeah. I heard that. I'm like, ooh.
Christian Bale's actually laid a beat down on Heath Ledger.
Yeah, I can't imagine any of that felt very good. And to his credit, the guy can take a punch.
Yeah.
Because I would not like to be punched by anybody, let alone Christian Bale.
And my choice for Heath Ledger isn't because it was one of his last films and he did really well on it. It was because of the narrative where it fit with Christopher Nolan's kind of Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That being said, though, Jack Nicholson did exactly the same thing with Tim Burton's. Tim Burton likes to do kind of a dark, goofy-ish, well, I wouldn't say goofy, dark, more cartoonish universe.
If you look at a lot of the Tim Burton movies, I think one of the brightest colored movies I remember him doing was Mars Attacks. That's a very bright, very colorful movie.
Yeah.
And, I remember when I was in high school, I actually had to do a film study for Batman, which was probably the greatest week of my high school life. But one of the things he really stressed was that dichotomy where Batman and Gotham itself was this dark, dark town. Here you had Jack Nicholson in bright, bright purple, bright orange, bright green. Everything was bright with that guy. He was that guy. Tim Burton always likes to throw that color in there. There's a lot of his movies that'll start out where the quote unquote normal world is the dark, dreary, drab, blasé world, and then you move into the other realm for whatever the story might be, and it's typically the more colorful world. Think of Nightmare on Elm Street. Halloween Town was actually pretty colorful in contrast to the real world.
Yeah. Okay.
And I like you said, I think a lot of people give, in my opinion, Heath Ledger's Joker a little bit more of a boost because it was his last role, and it's unfortunate that it was his last role. I don't want to say that I don't care that it was his last role, because I didn't mind him as an actor, but on the same token, I don't think that makes him a better Joker because, well, that was his last role.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Well, you said you like the dark, gritty portrayal, and I think he slots in really, really well there.
Yeah.
And even how he played it off with sucking on his scars when he's talking to me. He's always fidgeting with his scars. To his makeup, he played off his makeup very, very well.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was makeup to him.
No. And I remember reading an interview where he said he envisioned the Joker not as having his skin dyed and his hair or whatever. It was almost like war paint that he had put on. And you can see this kind of during the interrogation scene where a lot of that makeup starts to come off as he's just getting wailed on.
Yeah.
By Christian Bale, and it's great, and it does the role justice. But more often than not, I find that I've watched the two movies countless times, and to me, Jack Nicholson was just the quintessential Joker. He was even irritated that at, I don't know how old he is now, he wasn't invited to play the Joker for that role. And I remember reading that in an interview and thinking, I don't think that you should play that role, sir.
Oh. See if he takes a hit from Christian Bale.
Well, that's just, I think that given the two under that circumstance, Heath Ledger by far is the one to play the role.
He kind of gave several different backstories of the origins of his scars, and it kind of made you wonder. You get the fan theories of what his actual origin was. You get the fan theory that he was a war vet from Iraq or Afghanistan.
Yep.
Something happened to him, got blown up, and now he's just pissed off at the world, and specifically the kind of American structure, and that's what he's trying to burn down.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to create chaos in this system that he feels abandoned him, kind of left him for dead. So it was an interesting theory that I came across with that. So
yeah, no, I liked how they just kind of threw it out there, because at the time that movie was released, they hadn't really retconned, to the best of my knowledge, to the Red Hood. Because with the Red Hood, I think they were playing off the failed comedian who just they bring this up in the comic book arc for The Killing Joke, that it really was just one bad day, and that was his whole reason for shooting Barbara Gordon. It was his whole reason for kidnapping Commissioner Gordon, to just prove to Batman that just one bad enough day will put you over the edge, and that was the whole goal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, up until the big retcon, it always was, well, where the hell did he come from? You know, Tim Burton, I can appreciate what he did with the whole Jack story, and he was a gangster, and that's why he's just so good at being a gangster as the Joker, and all this sort of stuff that he just kind of shoehorned in there.
Yeah.
And it was nice, and it was a nice take on it. And if I had to nitpick, that was probably one of my least favorite parts of the Jack Nicholson Joker, was that we didn't have to tie him to the Waynes being shot. There was no reason to tie him. Batman himself is just a magnet for trouble.
Yeah.
You didn't need to say, oh, well, this is why they're so interconnected. He killed his parents. Well, that's to me, it was kind of a cop-out.
Yeah.
So to the Heath Ledger credit, for him just showing up, I think that plays a lot more to what I like as the Joker in the comic series itself than not, because I don't want... even when they retconned the Red Hood, I really wasn't thrilled that they did that.
Yeah.
I kind of liked not... It bugged me not knowing where he came from, but I liked that it bugged me not knowing where he came from. It gave me a reason to be invested in the guy. Like, where the hell did you come from that you're this crazy and funny simultaneously?
Yeah. I actually kind of, like, one of the things I found interesting with the Jack Nicholson Joker, where he killed the Waynes, was it spoke to how interconnected they were, how they needed each other, and also that they ended up creating each other ultimately. He created Batman, and then Batman dumped him in a vat and created the Joker. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting, but ultimately I agree with you on your point that the Heath Ledger out of nowhere kind of just rides up and surprises everybody.
Well, even in the comics, when you look at Detective Comics #1, he just showed up. There was no rhyme, no reason. He was just there because there was a masked vigilante, and this guy is the guy that's just going to cause the trouble. And you know, there really was there was an established backstory to Batman.
Yeah.
There was always an established backstory as to why he became Batman and how he came up with the bat and everything in between. And the Joker was always just there.
Yeah.
He was just there because Bruce Wayne decided to fight crime, and that just seemed to start bringing them out of the woodwork. The Joker was the first one out of the cracks.
Well, that was all kind of goes back to the golden age of superhero comic books, where you have the superhero and then maybe one arch nemesis, like the Superman, Lex Luthor.
Mm-hmm.
You get the Batman, Joker, and then you get like the Flash, Reverse Flash, creative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that was the golden age when it first started. Is you really only got one arch nemesis, one villain.
Yeah.
And it was just basically them going at each other. And then the rest of the comics were them trying to solve natural disasters. And
yeah, it was a sign of the times, right? There was a whole lot of mob breakups and gang violence, and then the Joker would pop back up again. And even some of the stable enemies like the Penguin and Two-Face, they really were just there because they could represent mob culture. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until about 10, 15 years later that we started to add the more extreme villains that we see in the Rogues Gallery there for any of the superheroes, really.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we made pretty good points on both sides. And now I'm going to bring up Jared Leto.
I think we can forgive a lot of silliness with Jared Leto. What was your takeaway from his Joker?
Well, I liked it because it was a very kind of fresh, new approach. Something we haven't seen necessarily with the Joker before. The Joker's always been like a almost mafia-style crime boss. This Joker was more of like a hip-hop kind of street gang.
Yeah,
Joker.
seemed more in tune to the times than
Yeah.
than the mob. Instead of having the mob boss, he was more of the gangbanger. I get that.
Yeah. And well, the Joker is kind of, each time we get a different Joker, it's kind of more in tune with the times. It's kind of evolved, and it was kind of interesting with that. The great thing about the Joker is we almost rarely see two alike. Everybody brings their own thing to the Joker. Like the director and the actor, they bring a different Joker every time. But Leto's was something completely different. He played like, I think he thought the role was going to be bigger than it actually was, and they said that in the media.
Yeah, I think a lot of us in leading up to Suicide Squad's release really believed that he was the main antagonist.
Yeah.
You know, I was super pumped, and I still get a kick out of the movie. Like I can enjoy a comic book movie for what it is, even the bad ones. But it was the one part of the movie that was underutilized.
Yep.
It seemed to be underwritten. He just, if anything, he was just there to just chase the tails of the Suicide Squad because Harley was there.
Yep.
And I think it was a really, really, really big waste, especially when you start hearing the news stories about how he behaved offset.
Yeah.
Was sending people weird gifts and stuff like that. I mean, his character is essentially a supporting actor.
Yeah.
So if you're a headliner and you're getting messed around with a supporting actor, like I could just see how that would drive people insane. But like you said, I'm pretty sure he was under the impression that it was a bigger piece.
Yep. And when, like, Suicide Squad, when it's a group of villains, pretty much, like, if you're going to play a villain, you're going to have to step up your villain game.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling, like, I haven't seen any director's cuts or anything, like, outtakes or anything like that. I have a feeling that he probably did that, but what we saw on screen was not that.
Even the extended cut barely gives you an idea as to what the hell they were going for with him.
Yeah.
Like, they really, with him, they came out the door with a bang, and then that was it. He just simmered for the rest of the movie.
It's almost like they seem to use him just to sell tickets. Like,
almost, yeah.
Like, here's the Joker, played by Jared Leto. Come see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're like, okay, let's watch this villain.
Yeah.
And then you get Enchantress with her...
With her robot brother?
Yeah, her god brother there. It's like a robot, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm susceptible to the jingly keys. You know, like I'll look at the jingly keys, but when you're dealing with comic books and especially the fandom that comes along with that, like there's just they are relentless, they are unforgiving, and if you make me believe that I'm about to go see a movie where I'm going to get this fresh version of the Joker, I mean, there's a monstrous portrait of the Joker in my garage. I'm a huge Joker fan, so now I've bought my ticket. And I'm just ready. Screw the Suicide Squad. Just give me a good solid 2 hours of the Joker. Well, here in total is like 15 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm not liable to have a very good time because no matter how good your movie is, I'm walking away disappointed.
Yeah.
Because you really didn't deliver. You know, you promised me a delicious steak, and what I got was a plate of mashed potatoes and a cube of meat.
Yeah, definitely misused. We'll see if he even comes back or if they use him again. Another thing that I thought was interesting was you get to see a side of the Joker that you don't normally see in the movies where he has the Harley Quinn as the love interest, so you're not really sure what's going to happen there. Like, you can see that he's not quite right in the head with her. And
they have a unique relationship, yes.
That's one way to put it. But you don't know what would necessarily happen if somebody got between those two.
Well, you kind of get a feeling that as much as he would just throw her away like a chewed up piece of gum, when Common's character steps into the booth with him and basically comments him on, you know, what a hot girl that Harley Quinn is.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, you think, well, come on over here. You think my girlfriend's hot? Look at my girlfriend, which ultimately ends up with Common getting done.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see where he could care less whether or not she dies, but that's his decision to make.
Yeah.
So you see that he's just glued right to her.
Yeah. It's his like possession.
Exactly.
It's his toy.
It's very much his toy, and no one's allowed to play with it, let alone look at it.
So that would have been an interesting thing to explore more, especially with Will Smith's Deadshot kind of starting to kind of get close to Harley. That would have been a perfect way to bring in the Joker as the main villain.
Yeah, exactly.
And throw him at the team, but instead he disappears for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, there was a great conflict that was present that they could have used, and instead we went for another vortex in the sky, big bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's not that that's a problem, because more often than not it's going to be a vortex in the sky. But it was a conflict. It was another conflict that you could have used that wasn't being used by 5 or 6 different movies at the time of release.
Yeah.
You know, there was a series of movies all released where there was the sky was opening up and everything was either coming in or going up.
Yeah.
And you know, I like you said, there was that little bit of sexual tension between Harley Quinn and Will Smith, and I really think they could have played off of that. And for all I know, they were going to play off that, because if you were to read the backstory, there was all kinds of reshoots, all kinds of let's go back and redo this and let's go back and redo that, and it was almost like they had a movie in the can,
yeah,
and then cut a good chunk of that away and said, well, now we got to change it.
Yeah. It seemed like almost 3 different movies.
Yeah.
Put into one, and just none of them kind of connected.
No, and it's not like it was a good 3 storylines either. I think it was like 3 different movies that were all trying to play all at once.
Yeah, like 3 half-written movies.
Yeah, you know, it's like listening to 3 different songs simultaneously and then trying to parse it all together into one. It's not going to go good.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, like, to his credit, he had a lot to work with, and I know a lot of people hated the tattoos or hated the portrayal. I liked it, but the utilization of it just fell flat.
Yeah.
Like it just I remember walking out of the theater and I had a good time watching the movie. It was a good comic book movie. Like it was, let's face it, when we go to see a lot of our movies, we're not going for Oscar fare here. We're going for just I just want to have 2 hours of fun. Let me forget about the world around me. I just want to have a little bit of downtime with my brain.
Yeah.
And that's what it was, and I had fun with it, and I can still watch it and get enjoyment from it. But it always weighs in the back of my mind that they could have done so much more.
Oh yeah, like
so much more.
So much that there was there. Like they kind of teased that it could have been Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm.
They did a whole bunch of things because he was a younger Joker. Like the Joker's typically either older or the same age as Batman.
Yeah.
He would have been younger than Batman. They didn't use him. They didn't use him properly.
No, they didn't. And again, with not using somebody like the Joker properly, there's that tsunami of fandom coming behind you that's going to let you know exactly how you screwed up.
Yeah.
And it, you know, I know it's really fashionable to shit all over the DC movies, but on the same token, when you start making sloppy mistakes like that, like the Joker is Batman.
Yeah.
He is not a throwaway character. You know, Lex Luthor is not a throwaway character with Superman.
No.
You know, and if we're gonna give Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman the royal treatment, you should probably give their arch nemesis the same treatment.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like they're not different from each other. Joker is not a side character; never has been.
Nope.
You know, he's been part of the bigger picture. He is the big picture. You know, and with Jared Leto, I think that they just, I don't know. You've seen the interviews with him where he is none too plussed about how his role went with that whole entire movie.
He's a good actor. He can pull off a lot of roles, and yeah, I'd be kind of pissed too.
If I spend countless hours of my life, and let's face it, as an actor, you're not exactly just going home Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. You're hours in a makeup chair. You're hours on set. You're not at home for days, weeks, months on end.
Yeah.
Only to have everything you've done relegated to, again, 15 minutes of film time. I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, I'm sure he cashed that paycheck, but I could be really pissed off about it because you know, it's not the money, it's the time and sacrifice that you're putting in.
Also, like, think of all the money he spent on all the condoms and anal beads or whatever he sent to his castmates.
That is not a cheap endeavor.
Those are some investments.
Exactly. Those are not cheap gifts.
Yeah. And also, to that is, when you're mentioning there, when you're bringing a Joker to the table, Let's talk with the balls on the people that are talking about having a Joker standalone movie.
You know what? It would sell tickets. I'd go see it.
I'd go see it too.
I don't think that there's anybody out there that would say no to a Joker movie.
Nope.
Bad sells. You know, there's a lot of people out there that could watch. I mean, anti-heroes are... I love myself a good anti-hero movie. I love an anti-hero. Give me a good villain movie. I'll go see a villain movie.
Oh, it'd be interesting to see what happens when they bring out Venom. I think that might affect their decision on a Joker movie, but ultimately with a Joker movie, I think it has to be in the right hands, has to have the right writers, directors, and actor, and it's going to be a lot of moving pieces they're going to have to absolutely nail.
You know, exactly. They're not going to be very forgiving. They're not going to be very, very forgiving. And you better have a damn good script if you're not going to have it lean heavy on Batman.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to be really... You also have to be very, very careful if you're going to play the origin story game.
Yeah.
You know, like whose origin story are you going to go for? Are we going to use the Red Hood? Are we going to use, like you said, the military vet, the PTSD problem? Are we going to use the failed comedian approach that was hinted in a couple of comic books?
Mm-hmm.
Like you know, I understand that you're not going to make everybody happy, but you're really going to want to make sure that enough people are happy.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And I personally don't like the idea of it being an origin story because I like, as we talked about, I like the Heath Ledger. You don't know the origin. It's not explained. I'm tired of seeing these origin stories where they explain, like, how many times have we had an origin story for Spider-Man, like Fantastic Four?
Well, every time they remake the Fantastic Four, we have to remind everybody that how they got their powers. But you're right. We said this in the first, I think it was the first episode where we were talking about movie reboots.
Yep.
Like, how many times do you need to watch Bruce Wayne's parents get shot? How many times does Superman need to be launched from Krypton? How many times does the Flash have to get hit by lightning? Like, there are certain figures in pop culture that you really don't need to spend more than the credit sequence establishing who they are or how they got their powers or how they came to be. For the Joker, I don't even think you really need a whole lot.
No.
You know, if you're going to go with the Red Hood thing, you can do the Red Hood thing in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch, you just need to watch how he fails as the Red Hood.
Yeah.
You know, if they're going to go with anything, you really don't need a whole lot of time. People are going to want to see the movie where the Joker is being the Joker. They're not going to want this whole drawn out, we'll get to what's really happening in about a third or a half of the movie later. That being said, we'll let the people decide who wins the argument. Fortunately, the correct answer is Jack Nicholson. There is going to be that one guy that's going to throw Cesar Romero out there, and as much as I like my Joker with a mustache, Cesar Romero was great.
Yeah.
We'll throw that out there so that people aren't harping on the fact that we didn't bring up Cesar Romero.
Let's just be clear, though. Steve the intern said Cesar Romero, and he's in a closet right now. So.
Well, Steve the intern needs to learn when to shut the hell up, because Steve the intern needs to stop talking out of turn.
Exactly. All right, so I guess that we'll wrap up this discussion, and there's no clear winner.
Except for me. It's Jack Nicholson.
So well, yeah, but, Heath Ledger and all that. So anyways.
Yeah, Heath Ledger indeed.
Yeah. Okay, well, until next time. And that concludes this episode of Nerdium. I hope you all had a good time. As always, you can look for us on Twitter at Nerdium Podcast. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Let us know what you'd like us to cover. Give us a shout and tell us what you'd like to hear us carry on about, argue about, or discuss. Feel free to message us or drop us a line at nerdiumpodcast@gmail.com. And if you've liked what you've heard today and have a few moments, give us a quick rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe and tell your nerdy friends and family all about us. Until next time.